93. This is Damon Asheranu from Asheranu.com, otherwise known as Prince Raziel. We back in here once again. So, I don't know how long it's been since I've been live. I don't know how long it's been since I did a video. But it's time to do it now. I actually tried to do one yesterday, but it didn't actually go through because I wanted to do the whole 555 thing. However, it wasn't time to do it, so I'll do it now. So in this particular video, I will talk about how to think in 5D, right? So before any questions or any, because there's just so many people that talk about this stuff. Let me just be very accurate and very real very quickly before we get into the actual subject. The reason why I don't make as much content as I used to is because I seek to be original. Meaning there's 1,000,001 people talking about all these topics and subjects, right? No problems with it. The more people that know about what we call the Aquarian information, the Aquarian age, all it does is empower you once you know how to properly utilize the information that has been presented to you. However, I've been doing this for 7 years now. Actually, I'm in my 8th year because I started this channel in 2013. We're in 2021, so we got about 8 years, right? So in my 8 years of creating content, well, again, that's not true either because I was creating content before this channel. This is like my 3rd channel. So I've been uploading videos since, who knows, 2007, all right? So I didn't seen it all, right? So I wasn't just a person speculating about any of these things and not putting in the work. So pretty much as long as people have been talking about this stuff, I've been around, right? So I didn't see the various stages and evolutions that the knowledge has undergone, right? So this is like before most people was even into this information, I was already teaching, right? And before I was teaching, I was actually learning before any of this stuff was popular, right? So that's why for me, truly, this is a blessing. This is something that is, you can say, again, I don't want to really put it into words because the words are not going to do this any justice. The point that I want to make is I have always been this way. When I get on this camera and when I create this content, this is not an image, this is not a persona, this is who I really am. I brought who I really was to the YouTube to further clarify and again to allow people to connect, those who want to connect, those who are into the information. You have access to someone else who's also into the information, who has dedicated their lives to this. This is not something that I just do for content, clickbait, views. This is why I don't put any titles or no craziness in my titles. I just stick to the point. I keep it mathematical. I keep it scientific, right? That's another reason why I don't really get in too much trouble. I've been shadow banned on YouTube. A lot of people can't find the content. However, I don't necessarily get in trouble with YouTube, like community strikes and YouTube beef and all that. You see, I haven't you don't see any of that type of content on the channel because it's been all about the mathematics and it's been all about the science for me, right? Anybody who has allowed the knowledge or the mathematics and science to evade their sight, that's when I get caught up into the madness because I didn't seen it. I don't speak about everything, but I watch all things, meaning everybody who's putting out content about this, I may not be watching their content all the time, but I at least know who they are. So I know the various angles that people come from because I didn't study it all and I put it into practice, right? So that's the difference between me and anyone else. It's because I'm not necessarily trying to give you a certain angle to view the occult from. What I teach is you are the occult. You can view it from any angle you choose. You are every angle that you can possibly view this from. You are all these angles instead of this versus that, you know? So that comes from a religious mentality. People who are spiritual most likely was religious before they got spiritual, so they take that religious dogma into the spirituality, and that's why we have so much separation, and that's why we have so much drama. That's why the spirituality, like if you were into this stuff back in 2012 and you look at 2020, 2021, you wouldn't necessarily know it would have went this way. In other words, you could say people wasn't calling themselves woke in 2012, but they're calling themselves woke in 2020, 2021. However, the so-called woke community are not necessarily occultists, or they're not going to necessarily put themselves out there as occultists. They especially is not going to talk about no dark magic, anything forbidden, right? But this is what I do. I'm going to talk about the forbidden. I'm going to talk about what's banned. I'm going to talk about the dark side. I'm going to talk about astrology because I actually do all these things, which is what makes me different than somebody who's just trying to give you information. I'm not here to give you any information. I'm here to convey my experience. So because I am actually working with the spirits, because this is what I actually do on a daily basis, whether I'm creating content or not, I am fully indulged and engaging in spiritual activity, right? Not a day passes that I'm not putting in this work, right? So when I do speak about these things, this is why when I speak about these things, I don't sound like anyone else. This is because this is coming from direct experience. I didn't watch somebody else's content. I'm just repeating what they said. I didn't read a book and I'm just repeating what this book said. Everything that comes in my direction, I have to verify with the spirit. So I have to have that one-on-one interaction. That allows me to come to original conclusions that no one else can come to. Right? So this is what makes my channel unique from anyone else's because I'm going to give you an original perspective because I'm going to actually break everything down because I'm not biased with any information. Because I can tell you about Gnosticism, I can tell you about Sufism, and I can also tell you about the Kabbalah, right? I can tell you about any of these occult schools of thought and not necessarily favor either one of them because it's all the occult. We don't have to necessarily deal with one angle or this angle. And now everyone who's not on this side, now we're enemies. Like there is no peace. What's up, Keenan? Right? In other words, I'm not to wage war with those who may think different than me. Just because I work with the demonic, the demon, the jinn, don't mean I'm against those who work with the angels, right? Because I work with the angels too. That's the difference. It's just a lot of side choosing. But again, that's neither here nor there. I just want to give a little perspective and background as to where I'm going with this. So when I say what I need to say, it will be understood, right? In the sense of whenever you are allowing the occult to enter your life, you must be truly certain that the person that's teaching you is actually practicing what they're telling you about. Because if all they're doing is conveying information that they have not tested, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Anything that I've ever said has been tested because I already did it. So before anything I say exits my mouth on this YouTube, know that I have put in the work to verify what I am saying. All right? Now, again, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. It all depends on how you view it because some people may view it as, okay, you're a bad person or you're a negative person because you work with the dark side, you work with black magic, all right? Then other people have a different perspective. Irregardless, to each his own. I just want to preference. What's up, L. Ray? This is just moving forward. What's up, teenager? Moving forward, right? We don't have to talk about the past. I just want to make clear to everyone who is here the angle that I'm coming from so that there is no confusion because the content is crazy. Again, everything that you guys watch, I'm watching you guys like to know different perspectives. You don't have to get your game from just one source. So, as versatile as I am, I expect everyone else to be just as versatile. What I find, though, however, is most of the people are just talking about shit that they're not actually doing. They just have a bunch of information, but they're not putting in any work. So you can only go so far with most people because they're not doing anything. How are you supposed to get any real game from someone who's not actually putting in work to actually get the game that they're trying to convey to you? Most of the time, they get their game from someone else who is actually putting in that work and they just put their spin on it. Because how can they tell you about something that they don't actually practice? For example, there's a lot of people who may have a problem with, let's just say, Aleister Crowley, right? But they have never read a Thelemic book. They don't know anything about Thelema. All they know is do what thou wilt. I'm just giving a quick example. All they know is do what thou wilt. They don't know anything else. They have never read the book of the law. They have no idea about the actual depth as to what was brought to the world via Thelema. Just as an example, again, we can use Helena Blavatsky as an example. We can use Adolf Hitler. We can use countless examples of people who have been demonized for their occult understanding because people don't understand the occult, and because of the history that is attached to the occult, it is never given a fair shot or fair use. So, in other words, it doesn't matter how much. What's up, X24? It does not matter how much I speak about astrology, I speak about the Kabbalah, I speak about Sufism, I can speak about these things forever. But there will always be those who simply don't agree just because of their mentality. It's not because what is being said is wrong or right. It's based on their own personality. It's based on what they feel. Because again, people are still religious even though they claim to be spiritual. I can see through it because I put the work in, and it's clear that I put the work in. Because everything that I say, again, people, it can be verified that it has not been said by anyone else. Meaning, if you have been watching this channel long enough, you know that I have said things that have never been said. It will never be repeated on this channel because I had to take a risk. I had to risk the channel being deleted, people, hate me for whatever I'm saying. I had to risk all of it just to be truthful. And yes, that also sacrifice the monetary gain. I can be in a way better position financially, but why? If it requires me to lie to the people or to deceive the people or to scam the people or I'm doing something false, it doesn't balance out for me. And this is why I want to thank everyone who continues to support me, even if I do not produce content. So I definitely want to give a special shout out and thanks to everybody who supports me, whether I'm making content or not. Because there are those, and everybody know exactly who you are, who still continues to send, whether you're sending a donation, whether you are part of the website. I may not even put out content for a month, 2 months, and they still support. So all I have to say is, from the bottom of my heart and soul, I appreciate that because sometimes it takes time to really get everything in place so that when I do present what I present, it is right and exact. So I appreciate everybody's patience with me because again, I know I'm not just putting out content all over the place. But again, I just want to make sure that when I actually do put out content, it is legit. I have verified it with personal experience and I've also researched it. So I have a subjective point of view and I also have the objective point of view, right? I still think about the New York trip, the weather part. That's what I'm saying. I could have been like everyone else and just went to a place because it's popular to go. But what did I do when I went to New York? I revealed to you who the spirit of the city was. Every time that you guys have seen me in a different city or seen me, I'm speaking crazy, you've seen me in a different city. You already know how that is. It doesn't matter where I am. I'm still putting that game down. It does not matter. So if I'm in wherever I'm in, I'm telling you about the history of the city, spirituality of the city, and I'm going to tell you what's going on with the people while giving you the actual footage. There isn't no one else doing that. I can fucking guarantee you that, and I will cuss in Ramadan to say that there is no one else who's putting in that level of work who's going to, if they go somewhere, they already know somebody, they're already connected with anybody. They're not just on a street level, just gaining information. They don't know what's going on, they don't know anybody, and they just genuinely have a sincere push within them that's internal to reveal information that is secret or information that is occult. Like, for example, when I went to DC, just Washington, DC, I can instantly see what spirit ruled over that city, which I revealed when I was there. I'm not going to reveal it now, but when I was there, I revealed the spirit of that, just as an example. Because it was obvious to me because I'm studying spirits. I literally have an encyclopedia. I tell people, get you an encyclopedia of spirits so that you can become more familiar. Because I'm familiar with spirits, I can notice the patterns when I see them because I got, and if I'm not certain, I can just look it up. Because I have everything I need right on the phone, right? So if I'm not certain, all I gotta do is not do a Google search, do an encyclopedia research. I have the actual encyclopedia. You gotta do the real research. Again, most people are fine with just doing their Googles, but Google's not gonna reveal everything. And again, Google is not a replacement for personal revelation or spiritual revelation that you can only receive when you put the work in. All right. So I've been doing this for years, right? I've been talking about all the concepts that I talk about. I've been talking about. It's not necessarily anything new. I just approach it from different angles because I know that I speak to a lot of different types of people. Some people come from a Christian background, people come from an Islamic background, some people are just the main three. You got many more that are not mentioned. We have many different people come from many different speaking to one type of person. I try to speak to anyone who has knowledge of the occult. You should be able to follow. I don't hear anyone else saying they talk about it, but they're not telling you to memorize. I've been telling you, memorize these concepts so you can illuminate yourself from within, so that you can have a original, what you want to call internally. Things that may be in books, but you didn't find it in a book. You found it from illuminating yourself. You have given yourself energy. So whatever is in a book, whatever revelation that somebody else found out, you have discovered that same revelation because you just simply put in the work from the internal perspective. And this leads to the actual title of the video, How to Think in 5D. So you see, I've been talking like 20 minutes. I ain't even really got into the concepts. Why? The video skipping? No, dude, shit. Video skips, whatever. Whatever you guys hear, you get. Whatever you don't, I just have to do a pre-recorded video, right? It's another reason why I don't do lives because they can start fucking with the live stream. So why go live if I'm right in the middle of saying something, then I just get cut off, which has happened many times, right? So that's another reason why I don't go live because it can be interference. All I gotta do is pull the plug on you, and your live stream is gone, right? I done did live streams that never even made it past of the never. Let me word this correctly. I did lives that once the live stream is over, it just stays stuck in the YouTube processing phase, and it never actually makes it live. All of these things have happened before that are out of my control. I can have the best signal. I can be wherever I want to be on this planet. It has nothing to do with the location. It's nothing to do with the signal. It's just simply somebody from YouTube side may see the video, don't like what's being said, they pull the plug. It just is what it is, right? So information. So again, I just have to do more pre-recorded videos. So whatever I do reveal, it's not, there's no interference there. So again, that's why I do more pre-recorded videos at this point. I know I used to do live streams all the time, but I'm like, it was just too much interference, all right? Again, you guys probably hear all this background noise. It's pretty hard doing a live stream because you don't really control the environment unless you're actually, in your own home. But I'm like, I don't really necessarily want to be inside the home and I'm doing a live stream. I can do, whatever. I like to show many different angles. And again, if you've been watching my channel, you've been following my channel, you already know I like to show many different things. I just showing the same different scenario. You don't see me in the same room all the time. You don't see me in the same place. I like to move around and show many different things so that you guys can feel different energy sources. Again, it's more of a energy thing. Yes, I speak about information. Yes, I'm talking. Yes, this is hitting your conscious mind. Sure, but this is really about energy. It's really about what do you feel based on the environment, based on the aura. It's a more of an energy thing. So even though I'm speaking words, it's not. This is not the point. This is just the medium that I'm using to convey something deeper. And that's what it means to be into the occult. Meaning, it ain't even the words that really matter. It's not my words really don't matter. People may understand what I'm saying. If you're familiar with the lingo, you're familiar with astrology and numerology and all that, you may be able to follow along and understand what I'm saying. But that's not the point. The information is not the point. That's just what keeps you there. That's just what connects us together. But that's not the purpose. What's up, T? So again, I just want to make it clear. It does not matter. Again, I've been giving you guys information for years. So what? I don't need any credit for that because it's about the energy. What have you felt from me? That's what matters to me. What was felt? I don't give a fuck what people agree with or don't agree with. That is irrelevant. What was felt? Do you feel a genuine person right in front of your face? Do you feel somebody who's genuine or not? Because if you don't feel someone who's genuine, it does not matter what I say. It is not going to matter. If a person feel like they trust who is speaking to them, it does not matter what is said to them. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I can say anything. But if the vibe is off, it doesn't matter. So that's why I try to keep the vibes pure, which is why I only speak on things that I know or that I'm actually dealing with or I've been through or I'm working on. I try to stay away from things that don't concern me. If it does not concern me, I try not to speak on it because why am I speaking about something that doesn't concern me? What's up, Orny 13? Shalom. That's what it is. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's many different greetings. You know, I may get a shalom, I may get assalamu alaikum, right? I may get peace, I may get 93. That's what I'm saying. There's many different people from many different schools. So I have to be universal. And that is the purpose of the occult, to make you universal, because if you are familiar with what everybody's into, you can speak to everybody. If all I know is the Christian science, how can I speak to Muslims? If I only know the Muslim science, how can I speak to Christians? If I only know Muslim and Christian, how can I speak to the Jewish people? There's just always going to be somebody left out when I try to, just focus on one thing. What's up, Wide World? You did an amazing job. Well, the job ain't done. You see, I'm still here. That's why I try not to focus too much on what has been done already, because we know that there's still work to be done. Right? So again, we can talk about the website, we can talk about the YouTube. Yeah, I got like a million clicks on YouTube. It took me like 7 years for a million people. So what? It's people that go viral overnight. Again, I don't. Again, all that stuff it doesn't really bother me or faze me, because that's not what I came here to do. I didn't get on YouTube to go viral. I didn't get on YouTube to be something I'm not. I got on YouTube to show forth what had not been shown forth before I entered into this space. I did not enter into this space to just become a part of, say, the sonic noise. I didn't enter into the YouTube space to become a part of the sonic noise. And that's why I step back a lot of the times. A lot of times I step back when I feel like I'm becoming a part of the noise. It's time to purify myself. So again, so the fact that I haven't made videos, because I had to take a step back and purify myself, because again, when I do actually present whatever it is that I am presenting, I want to be clear about what I'm saying and as universal as I can be. Right? So I'm just giving you guys a little background, because again, I know I haven't been this active. So I'm just giving you guys a little context as to what's been going on. It's about, if I want to convey something original, it's not going to come at a rapid pace. If I'm just repeating stuff, I can make videos every day. If I'm just talking about what's going on in the news, what's going on in politics, what's going on in the world, I got content forever. I will never run out of content if I'm just repeating what somebody else has already reported. However, when you are the actual reporter, right? When you're the one doing the reporting, when you're the one that's actually on the ground, when you're the one that has to write the story that no one else has before you put it out. Now it's going to be a million people that makes a story after you put it out, right? It's always a million and one people who talk about something after it's been put out, but there's very few people who speak about things before they get put out, right? And I'm just looking around, neighbors and all that, just making sure everything is good. This is this is when you are the reporter on the ground level making the original reports, not the one who's just repeating what has already been reported. That's the harder job because you have to go in places that may potentially be unsafe because you're the one putting in the work. And again, this is why I try to show I be in dangerous places, places that you probably shouldn't be, all of the time. I still do. I still be, again, we can talk about Devil's Gate. We can talk about all this. So I say places I shouldn't be. I'm not talking about necessarily just trespassing. I'm talking about I'm going to places that are spiritually active. We ain't just talking about dangerous because you can get shot. I'm talking about places that are spiritually active, meaning you can actually get some. We ain't even get you. See this when it's like when I come to the space of how this stuff really works. It's like everybody feel like they know how this shit work anyway. So do I really need to reveal the secret? Because it is a secret. What do I mean by it's a secret? This goes into the whole premise of this video, right? So let's get into the actual video, right? So again, I just been kind of rambling. Just because if you ain't supposed to be here, you ain't here. So if somebody click the video, oh, this motherfucker just talking for 10 minutes, I ain't got time for it. So now those people are out the way, right? So you only here want to be here now, right? So for the people who want to be here now, for the people who want the game, let me give you the game. How to think in 5D, right? So let me give you the real game. So fuck everything I just said for the past 30 minutes, whatever. That's not important. Let's get into what's actually is important. Right? How to think in 5D. How to think in 5D is simply this. If we look at 5D, I don't even have to say nothing deep. Let's be as simple as possible and show how deep it goes by being simple. So for example, let's just look at the terminology 5D. Before we get into what 5D means, let's just get into 5D, meaning the number 5 and the letter D. And I guarantee nobody has broken this down like this. I know it again. This will be the first time on the internet, like it always is, right? Because I know I had to figure this out on my own. So I know ain't nobody else figured this out. Not that they can't figure it out, but it is what it is. You always keep it raw and simple. That's how I had to start off. I had to start off that way. I couldn't start off refined because it wouldn't make sense. I'm refining myself now, right? I'm more refined now. You see, I'm not really doing too much cussing and fussing now, but again, those who've been around, I've been through many phases. Whole video, I may cuss 100 times in one video. I've been through many phases. But let's get to the point, right? Do I need to do that now? Nah, it's already been done. You've been watching me for years, and if you don't see a difference, then you need to unsubscribe. Unsubscribe, stop watching my content. If the creator of the channel, if I've been talking about this shit for years and you don't act, we ain't talking about the outer. We're talking about just the energy you feel from me. We ain't talking about what I'm talking about. We're just talking about the energy. If my energy has not shifted, go to videos some years later, watch my videos, see if there's an energy difference. If there's not an energy difference, stop watching me because I'm not going anywhere, I'm not doing anything. But if you see an energetic difference, if you see refinement, if you see evolution and growth, then you know I'm fucking with the right shit. If you don't see that, then fuck with somebody who is fucking with the right shit. It's as simple as that. So if you've been watching me this long, then you know. Like, all right, I see what he been talking about. He been talking about these demons, these angels, these jinn. He been talking about all this black magic. Well, if the energy you feel from me does not reflect the power of that, then there's no need to even be into it. Right? So if you watch my videos and you saw how raw I was years ago, cussing and fussing years ago, and you see now I try not to do too much of that, but I'm like, oh, what do I need to do all that for? I don't really have anything to prove. I had something to prove back then. I don't really have anything to prove now. I'm just continuing to be the medium between what's real and what's fake. So if nobody else will do it, I'll do it. I will take the responsibility if there will be no one else that takes the responsibility. That's just my level of dedication. And that's why, again, it's very few people who have that level of dedication because there's all these distractions. Like we got something more important to do. I guarantee anybody who says they don't have enough time to study these things, like they got something better to do, they don't. What can be more important than your own peace and happiness? Right? What can be more important than your own peace and happiness? You get involved into the cult because you want to be at peace. We ain't talking about you're not into, well, again, people may have different reasons. I'm not into these sciences because I want to wake the world up. I'm into these sciences because they work, because I have seen a difference in myself. That's why I stick with these things, because I see what they do for me on an eternal level. Internal with an I and also eternal with an E. So I just wanted the two different words there. I see it on an internal level and also a eternal level. But that's just me. I cannot speak for no one else. I'm just speaking for myself. Let's get into 5D. The number 5 and the letter D. So when most people think about 5D, they're thinking about, some spiritual something, thinking on, aliens and shit, and basically something that's out of the box that you really don't have access to, right? It's something far-fetched, right? Operating on 5D, the astral body, you know what I mean? It's far off, it's far reaching. It really don't have nothing to do with the here and now. It's somewhere else. Where we need to be in 1,000 years or 100 years. It's somewhere far off somewhere. Let me show you how 5D is with us right now. In the here and now, it don't have nothing to do with what we think it has something to do with because we've been listening to other people. This is my whole point. Let this be an example of this is what happens when you listen to other people and their definition of what they think it means versus what it actually means if we just break it down with mathematics and science. And we don't need anybody else to break it down for us, right? I'm just a medium to show you how to break things down for yourself. That's it. I just show how to do this yourself because this is what I do. 5D. So for those who are into numerology, know that there is attributes to number 5. And those who are into the alphabets know that the D is not just D. D has a attribute just like 5 is not just 5. 5 has an attribute. So essentially 5D is combining the attributes of the number 5 and the letter D. So let's break it down even further. What are the attributes of the number 5? What are the attributes of the letter D? The letter D can be translated to divine. For those who study supreme mathematics, we understand that the letter D corresponds to divine. So D is divine, it can also be destroyed, but we'll just deal with divine for now. So D is translated to divine. And 5 is translated to Mercury for those who study numerology. And again, there's many different types of numerology. So The 5 may be Mercury to me, it may be something else or someone else, but the attributes should be the same. What's up, Psychonaut Portal? Hotep, Hotep. So, and this is what I mean. We don't have to get caught up into the planets. Because again, numerology stands alone. Numerology is just the attributes of the number. That's what numerology is. It's just the attributes of the number. So when we apply the planets to the numbers, that's combined in astrology with numerology, right? However, some people may feel certain planets deal with certain numbers. Again, number 5 may be different to somebody else, but the attributes should be the same. So we stick with the attributes. So even if there's a different planetary vibration, the attributes are still the same. So we look at the attributes of Mercury and the attributes of divine. What makes something divine? So when you say something is divine, what are they really saying? When we say something is divine, this is essentially what I mean by when most of the time when we talk about 5D is some far reach and shit, right? Because when we think about divine, we think about like God, or we think about some spooky shit, right? We think about something that has nothing to do with the physical reality. So if something is divine, it must be godly. It must be, we're dealing with gods, or we're talking about angels that were created from fire, right? Many people may not associate the jinn with divine, but you can say the jinn is divine too. It all depends on your perspective, right? So if the D is a symbol for what is divine, and our definition for divinity is something that is far reaching, something that has nothing to do with the physical plane, and we combine that with the attributes of Mercury. Well, what are the attributes of Mercury? Well, the attributes of Mercury deal with chaos. What do I mean? Why does Mercury deal with chaos? Not only is Mercury the fastest moving planet around the sun, Mercury also correlates to Hermes, right? Mercury is a Roman god, right? So if we're talking about Mercury, Mercury is a Roman god. Mercury correspond to Hermes, which is a Greek god, right? So the Greek god is Hermes. The Roman god is Mercury. So most of the time we're speaking about planets, we're speaking about Roman deities. Is what most people don't understand. If we're talking about astrology, most astrologers ain't dealing with Roman mythology. So that's the thing in and of itself. Most astrologers are not even dealing with Roman mythology. So they talk about Pluto all day, but they don't know nothing about Pluto. What's going on? X24 just joined the Hyperion Mysteries. I appreciate that. Much appreciation and much love for that always. Okay. Now, going back to the Mercury and the number 5 and just the whole astrology connected to Roman deities, right? Most astrologers don't know why we utilize Roman deities when we're talking about planets. So again, if we're talking about Venus, we're talking about a Roman goddess. If we're talking about Mars, we're talking about a Roman god. If we're talking about Pluto, we're talking about a Roman god, right? What's up, back from hiatus? Yo, peace, right? So most of these deities that we utilize in astrology are Roman deities. So that's the first thing. What does this have to do with 5D? Because when it comes to letters, this is the Latin script. So our alphabets, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth, those 26 letters, that is called the Roman or the Latin script. So we use Latin letters or the Latin alphabet. And the Latin alphabet comes from the Roman, but we don't use Roman numerals. We use Arabic numerals. So you see, when you get detail orientated, we don't even have to deal with all the bullshit that's associated with 5D and all this extra alien shit, right? See, we be so quick to go over there with no mathematical or scientific foundation. I'm just trying to give you the mathematics and the science. Fuck all this extra shit, because that extra shit don't really apply to real life. So let me show you how to make this apply to real time. So if you want to go into the extra stuff and the interdimensional travel, if you want to go over there with it, at least you have a foundation to build from. Don't start over there. That's where you end up, but that's not what 5D represents at the foundation, at its basis. That's not what 5D represents. I'm showing you what it represents, and I'm showing you how I came to my conclusions. Once again, we're dealing with the Latin alphabet. So that's a Latin energy or a Roman frequency. So anytime we are using alphabets, the English alphabet, so that's English, French, or Spanish, because all of those use the Latin script. So whether it's English, French, or Spanish, you're using the Latin script, period. So you're tapping into that Roman energy or that Latin energy. So if you're using English, French, or Spanish, you're tapping into a Latin slash Roman energy. And because we don't use Roman numerals, the only time you see Roman numerals in today's society really is with football and the tarot. That's really the only places I see the Roman, and it may be high fashion somewhere, but we don't really use the Roman numerals. We prefer the Arabic numerals. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are Arabic slash Sanskrit numerals, so because they come from that side of the planet. So we have the Latin script with Arabic numerals. So you have a Latin energy from the alphabet and you have an Arabic energy from the numbers. So when we put together 5D, you're putting together this Arabic energy and you're putting together this Latin energy. So when the Arabic and the Latin come together, that produces a result. So what type of result does that produce when those two energies combine? Well, now we have to go into a deeper level of the history, not just the actual history, but the occult history. Why was these scripts created in the first place? Because most people don't use these scripts for their magical purposes. What do I mean? Most people just use the Latin script for regular things. Just like most people just use numbers to add, subtract, multiply, divide. That's how most people are using numbers, and most people are using letters just to convey messages, just to type on their little phones and shit or their little computers. They're just using that just to convey. That's it. There's no occult attachment to it at all. So for the majority of the people, 85% of the people, are using the Arabic numerals and the Latin script, to do whatever they need to do in their life, right? You need to know that, like they say, you need to know how to read and write, right? Reading and writing, that's the Latin script. So we use the Latin script to read and also write. And again, if you are an English speaking person, this does not apply if you're somewhere else. I'm just speaking for the people who use the Latin script, right? We are not taught the occult principles of the Latin script, just like we are not taught the occult principles of the Arabic numerals. We have to learn that on our own, in which we do. And that's why I speak so much about numerology. Because we have to learn this on our own, and you have to see these things happen for yourself. So I can talk about all day. The number 1 is the sun, number 2 is the moon, 3 is Jupiter, 4 is Uranus, 5 is Mercury, so on and so forth. I can talk about that forever. However, it don't mean nothing if you ain't putting in the work. Okay, 1 is the sun. And let's just say the 1 has attributes. Let's just say the 1 has the attributes of leadership, new beginnings. The 1, represents the masculine energy, the solar force within. We can say all that. But what does it really mean? So this is why the occult means you have to put it all together. This is what it means. If you're dealing with the occult, that means you are an alchemist. That means you know how to activate or put things together that usually don't fit together. That's the whole purpose of alchemy. When they say to turn lead into gold, That ain't something that anybody can do. That's not something everybody can do. Everybody don't have that skill set. Everybody can't take something that is worthless and give it value. Everybody can't do that. The people who are able to do that have some type of occult understanding of how the universe works. That's why I reference the Kabbalah. That's why I use Hebrew, because this is the language that the universe is built off of. Right? So this is why, as much as I speak about English, you see, I still be tapping into that Hebrew, because that takes you to the occult. Because the Hebrew language is, but again, are there people who speak Hebrew but that don't know anything about the Kabbalah or the Tree of Life? Absolutely. Absolutely, right? So majority of the people don't know anything about how to utilize these sciences. Frequency of numbers combined with letters and words can activate one's DNA. It's like a subconscious transmutation, the great work. Yes, the potential is there. The reason we don't see this in action with most people, even people who claim to be spiritual, that don't mean they're occultists. Majority of the people who claim to be spiritual don't know any of the stuff I'm talking about. Majority of the people who are spiritual don't know any of the stuff I'm talking about. So let's just be clear there. You can get most of the people on YouTube, they can't even have a conversation with me because they're not occultists. So there's no knock to them because they're not occultists. They're spiritualists. There's a difference between being a spiritualist and being an occultist. When you are a spiritualist, it's really one of these things where there's no rules. When you are a spiritualist, there are no rules. There's no set parameters that you have to master, right? When you are into the spirituality, where is the curriculum to being spiritual? There is no spiritual curriculum, right? That curriculum is in the occult, because when you are an occultist, there are certain things that you essentially should have learned. When you say, okay, I'm an occultist, then that means you should have some Kabbalistic knowledge under your belt. At least you should have some astrological information under your belt. Again, so when you say you are an occultist, that means you have a certain skill set. Versus when a person says they're spiritual, that doesn't necessarily clarify a skill set. Like every spiritual person does not have the same skill set, but if you are an occultist, every occultist should be able to understand each other, at least. Every occultist should be able to have a understanding of each other. But if you're spiritual, you can be all over the place. All right? You can be a spiritual Christian trying to speak to a spiritual Muslim, and y'all don't even have the same ideology, or you have not discovered the common denominator between occultists, which takes time. So I'm not saying any of this happens overnight. That's why it is called, right? Do alchemists need Kabbalah? Absolutely. I wouldn't teach it if I felt that it wasn't needed. That's why I teach it. You need all three occult schools. So let me make this clear. Let me make this, because the question was asked, and I'm going to be as real as possible. You need all three. See, most people are one or the other, but you need all three. What do I mean? Let me give you an example. So hopefully this clears up a lot of confusion, because again, even though this video on how to think in 5D, I'm also trying to clear up any confusion that people may have, because I know that you guys watch a lot of people with a lot of conflicting ideologies. So I'm just trying to clear it up so that you can understand everybody. It ain't for you to pick and choose. This is how you understand anybody who they may not even understand each other, but you can understand both sides. That's what the occult allows you to do. You want to be able to understand all sides instead of picking sides. There's no need to choose sides or pick sides. You need to be familiar with all things. So let me give you an perspective of how this works. Then we'll get back to 5D, because you see, everything I'm speaking about is still talking about the same dimensions. I'm just speaking about different examples. So the reason I say you need all three schools, what are the schools? So let me just reiterate for those who may not have been, in the video when I was speaking about this originally. When I say the three occult schools, I'm talking about Gnosticism, Sufism, and Judaism. Those are the three occult schools, right? You have the mainstream versions and you have the underground versions. So the mainstream version of Gnosticism is Christianity, right? So all spiritual Christians, as there's many of those spiritual Christians, they're basically Gnostics. They're basically Gnostics. So any spiritual Christian is a Gnostic, right? So they're into basically, the best example I have, like any woman who speaks about the divine feminine, she's most likely a Gnostic. What do I mean? Because in the Gnostic ideology or mythology, they speak about Sophia, right? So the whole like the black woman or the cosmic woman or Kali, all this comes from Gnosticism. It comes from Sophia, right? So anybody who's on woman empowerment or divine femininity, that's all the science of Sophia. That's the science of Gnosticism. Do they know that? No. But I know that because I took time to make all this clear. Because again, there's a lot of conflicting ideologies. Because like, well, how can the man be God and woman be God? Are they equal? Again, we have all these arguments. Again, I'm in the middle of all of it, trying to understand and comprehend all sides. Not trying to say who's right, who's wrong. I just want to know where it comes from. And so that's what I'm revealing to you now. So any woman who feels that she's in tune with the divine feminine, she's most likely a Gnostic because those are the teachings that helped them to discover that truth. So if you want to discover that truth, that's Gnosticism helps you with that. So that's why most women are Gnostics because that's the direction they go in because it's natural for them to go in that direction. No problems whatsoever. Again, this ain't to judges. It ain't to say who's right, who's wrong. I'm just showing you how these things work because they're not going to be able to tell you any of this because they don't know it, right? What's up, Harmony Nine? What's up, bro? So that's the first thing. So when it comes to, let's just say, the divine masculine, where does that ideology come from? The divine masculine more so comes from, I don't want to say Sufism, but we'll say Sufism because I'll say it this way. Most Muslims, not all Muslims, because they think differently, so I don't want to categorize all Muslims because they don't think the same. Because you have Sunni, you got the Sunni Islam, then you got, the Shiites, you got Sufism, you have many different sets of Islam. So I don't want to say all Muslims think the same because they do not. They don't all think the same. However, they all believe in a masculine deity. Again, let me not say all because it all depends on how deep you want to go into this. For those who are studied, you should know about the Quran and the satanic verses. So if you don't know, then now you know. The Quran and the satanic verses, do your Googles. So again, I'm speaking about masculinity, but it all depends on how far you want to go back. Because if we talk about Muslims in the Kaaba and Mecca, before Muslims were in Mecca, they were worshiping the divine feminine. So basically, before it was Allah, it was Allot. So the followers of Allah didn't build Mecca. Mecca was already built, and they took over Mecca. But they were worshiping the divine feminine. That's why you see a vulva on the Kaaba. If you type in the Kaaba, do your Googles, type in the Kaaba, and you can see a silver vulva on the side of the Kaaba. So we know that. So when I say where does divine masculine come from, I'm speaking about more modern times because modern Muslims believe in Allah, and if you believe in Allah, Allah says specifically, "Do not associate no partners with me." Where does that come from? That comes from at the time where Islam was being established. It was a religion already on the scene, and that religion was the religion following after the goddess, the triple goddess. So whenever we hear about the triple goddess, that's also in Islam, but it's more so in Sufism. And you got to read those satanic verses to even know about any of this because the average Muslim don't want no parts of that. So I'm showing you. So even though the mainstream religion is mostly masculine or they worship a masculine deity, if you go back to the foundations, you're going to find the divine feminine there too. It's just not there now, but it was there in the beginning, just like in the beginning with Christians before it was all about Jesus. It was about Sophia. So mainstream is all about Jesus. Mainstream is all about law. Mainstream is all about Yahweh. If you're coming from Judaism, it's all about Yahweh. It's all about one God, right? Yeah, Gnosticism. So Abarak or Abarak is more so this like it's the god of the Sufis. It comes from like Samaria over there in Persia, so on and so forth. So and that's also one of the seven goetic spirits, right? Literally, I was just working with Abaraks like recently, probably like 2 days ago. because the energy just be in the air. And then once you're familiar with all these energies, you kind of know what energy to work with because you know the energy signature they have. So it can be a day, let's just say like today, just based off of the energy of the day, is certain spirits that stand out more to me just based off of the vibe. Okay. Like for example, I'll just give you a quick example with right back on topic. Because again, I work with. Let me just give you an example of how I would go about it. So based on the vibe, based on energy, based on the numerology, based on everything that's going on, that's going to let me know what energies to work with. So all I gotta do is think about a continent. This is just what I do personally. I'm not telling nobody else what to do. This is what I do. When I think about okay, what spirit to work with, I start with the continent. If I want to be logical, there's two ways. I can either be logical or I can be spiritual about it. And I'll reveal both ways. So for me personally, if I want to be intellectual about what spirit to work with, then I just have to think about a continent. Do I want to work with the African pantheon? Do I want to work with the Egyptian pantheon? Do I want to work with the Yoruba pantheon, the Ifa pantheon? You know, you got all of the African traditions. Then you have, okay, do I want to work with American spirits? Right? So do I? So if we're talking about America, then you got to, you know, we're talking about the voodoo. Because again, if I'm talking about America, I'm talking about North and South America. So I'm not just North. We're talking about America. That's North and South. So I'm like, okay, in America, you got the Aztec spirits, you got the voodoo spirits, you got the mixed tech, you got the Toltec, you got the Olmec, right? You know there's many different American spirits, right? And that's North America. You go into South America, you got things like Ishu and Ishua, right? You know you got the Latin spirit, the Palo spirits, you know La Santissima Muerte, El Cristo Negro, you know that's the you know the Palo Mayombe, you know then you got Santeria, so on and so forth, right? There's many different. Again, that's African and that's American. And if I want to go to the Far East, you know, go to Asia, go to India, then yeah, most people stop at India. So let's just be clear. Most people stop at India. So they know they know about Indian spirits, right? I should connect it to the Akashic records. But what is a Akashic records, right? Most people have a perspective of the Akashic records, which is invalid, right? But we'll get into let me again, I know there's a lot of information coming through, so let me stay on topic. So I talked about if do I want to work with the African pantheon? Do I want to work with the American pantheon? Do I want to work with the Asian pantheon? Do I want to work with the Persian pantheon? Right? Because it's all every ideology has a pantheon. So I just think, okay, what pantheon do I want to work with? The pantheon I work with will be determined based upon the energy of the day. So this is me on an intellectual tip, right? So intellectually, I just feel the energy, and I'm like, okay, let me move in this direction based off of this energy signature. That's me doing logic. However, remember the goal of spirituality, the goal of an alchemist is to connect with your holy guardian angel or your higher self or your superconscious mind, right? Okay? The goal of the occult is to connect with your superconscious mind, your holy guardian angel, your higher self. It's all the same thing, it's just different schools of thought. So what do I mean? At this point, can't speak for no one else. I know at this point for me, I have connected with my physical reactions at this point. This only started happening like 2020. So I'm not saying like I've always been this way, no. So basically for the last maybe 2 years, probably less than that, I get physical reactions now. For example, let me just give you a quick example. So let's just say I'm going through spirits. So let's just say, you know, I wake up, okay, like what spirit I want to work with. So let's just say I make the decision. So then I go through the Egyptian name. I Set, do I want to work with Set? Do I want to work with Nephis? Do I want to work with, oh, I was about to say a name. I'm not going to say that name, man. I'm not going to say that name because there's an Egyptian deity that actually makes sense of all this. I'm not going to reveal that yet. Do I want to work with Apep? Do I want to work with Ra? Do I want to work with Happy? There's so many. It's impossible to name all of them. So basically, I just started going through the names, right? I just the energy hobby glitching. Again, it is what it is. So what I do is, nigga, it's glitching because I'm saying some real shit. It ain't glitching because I guarantee if I was talking about ass and pussy, this video would be crystal clear. I guarantee it. But because I'm talking about that real, it wants to skip. I don't even care about the shit no more. Again, if you want it uncut and raw, you just gotta wait for a pre-recorded video or just get up with me personally. I'm not even about to concern myself with what YouTube wants to do with the channel anymore. I can't concern myself with it. I just gotta put out the content. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. But at the end of the day, everybody got access to it. Everybody can email me. Anybody can email me. Anybody can access me. If they really want to access me, here. I mean, y'all know where I'm at. I'm not going nowhere. It's a glitch. If it don't, it don't. If it's clear, it's clear. If it's not, it's not. It's out of my hands. There's nothing I can do. See, I'm sitting here. I'm gonna do about it. All I can do is continue to push through the interference. So it do be a lot of interference, but I do it anyway. So that's why I'm here now. I'm doing it anyway. I'm pushing past the interference. I know y'all been hearing background noise. That's what I'm saying. I know it's been background noise. It's been crazy. I'm still putting through because I'm like, let me just lay this game down. Because this is what I'm here to do. I came to this earth to lay this game down. So let me just supposed to do. And this is what it is. Like, fuck all this extra shit. Shutting down this game. I'm not gonna do that anymore. It's gonna always be a reason why I shouldn't be recording video, why it's not the right time, why I need to wait. You know, it's always a reason why it needs to wait, why it needs to be prolonged. I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm just gonna lay this game down and let it be what it is. But let's get back to the initial point, because I don't want to veer off too far. So I know I'm trying to hit different points because people are asking me different things. But let me get back to the initial point, because the initial question was, do you need Kabbalah? If you are an occultist, is it necessary to study the Kabbalah? And I was just going through the different schools of thought. So what I was saying was, you have the Christians. So basically, anybody who doesn't agree with the mainstream story of Christianity most likely becomes a Gnostic. That means they're underground Christians. They believe the underground story. They believe more so in the Gnostics that came from the Nag Hammadi, not the Nag Hammadi Naberi in 1945, right? So if you're a Gnostic, you're probably familiar with works like the Gospel of Thomas. That's like the most popular one, the Gospel of Thomas. So you're probably familiar with the Gnostic text. So Gnostics or the underground Christians, they are not really into the Bible. They're more so into the Gnostic text. All right. So that's more so what they're into. When it comes to the Sufis or the Sunni Muslims, right? We went through that already a little bit. Just again, if we're talking about Sunni Islam, they believe in the law. Again, they follow the 5 pillars of Islam. Basically, if you are a Sunni Muslim, you follow the 5 pillars of Islam. For those who are not familiar with the 5 pillars, let me just make sure that I remember all 5 pillars. Again, we're in Ramadan now, so this is one of the pillars. One of the pillars is that you fast during Ramadan, you accept the law without messengers. Basically, you take your shahada. Your shahada is you basically say that you believe in one God and His messenger without that's it. You believe in Allah and Muhammad is His messenger. That's basically the shahada. So one pillar is you fast during Ramadan. Another pillar is you accept Allah without partners and Muhammad as his messenger. That's the second pillar. The third pillar is you make your salats, meaning your daily prayers. Muslims pray 5 times a day, so you're making your daily prayers. Also, you pay your zakat. Your zakat is basically your charity, right? Your charity. So, you go to Juma. So Muslims go to Juma on Fridays. Like Christians go to church on Sundays. Muslims go to Juma on Fridays. And, they put their donations. So the same way they pass a little donation bowl around the church, they call it zakat with the Muslims. You give your charity, you give your zakat. And the last pillar, the 5th pillar, is you make your pilgrimage to Mecca. So every Muslim has to basically Hajj, has to make their Hajj. Every Muslim has to make their Hajj once in their life. So every Muslim once in their life has to go to Hajj. That's their pilgrimage. So every Muslim has to take at least one time in their life has to make their pilgrimage to Mecca. Right? So those are the 5 pillars of Islam. So most Muslims are following those 5 pillars. And that just is what it is, right? You can't tell them shit. It's like you can't tell Christians shit. You can't tell them nothing, right? They're solid. Neither should we tell them anything. Again, we're focused on the occult. So the occult side of that is Sufism. And once you start dealing with Sufism, that's when you start getting into the satanic verses in the Quran. Basically, for those who don't know that story, I know I said Google it, but if you don't know the story, basically the Prophet Quran said he was influenced by the shaitan, and he uttered something that didn't come from the angel Jabril, because angel Gabriel becomes angel Jabril. So Arabic is angel Jabril. So angel Jabril revealed the Quran to Prophet Muhammad, right? So in the process of revealing the Quran to Prophet Muhammad, basically the shaitan or the Satan influenced the prophet, and that's basically where the satanic verses come from. The Satan in the Quran, the satanic verses in the Quran basically acknowledge the triple goddess. What do I mean by that? The triple goddess is, again, if we go back to Sophia and Gnosticism, we already know about the triple goddess. If we go to Wicca, we already know about the triple goddess. We already know the witches and they worship the moon and so we already know about the triple goddess. So most Wiccans or who practice Wicca, they're already into the goddess and the triple goddess, and that's again that's another version of Sophia, right? So if you are into Gnosticism, then again, that's where Sophia comes from, and you can say basically the followers of Sophia, basically the modern day version of this is called Wicca. But it's a thing about Wicca that they don't really speak about. That was around in the beginning of Wicca, but that's not really around now. What do I mean? Because I studied the origins of Wicca, even though I don't practice Wicca, but I study the origins because I want to be familiar with it at least. And basically, it was laws on the books, basically how Wicca came into existence. It was laws on the books that prevented basically witches from practicing witchcraft. That was forbidden up until maybe 1945. So in 1945, the laws were changed that allowed essentially witchcraft to not be demonized. They're not going to lock you up if you were found out to be practicing the darker arts. So the laws were changed in 1945. Just goes to show you how recently all this is. So it was just in 1945 that it was cool to be a witch. So while all these witches are just doing whatever the fuck they want to do, this is they don't even know their own history. So just be clear about this. This is all recent. Just like the Nile Hammadi Library was only discovered in 1945. So again, all this is recent. This has only been the last 50 to 70 years. So all this stuff is recent. What I want to mention about Wicca is, again, we all have heard this about the triple goddess, the great mother, the divine feminine. So if it's not coming from Gnosticism, it's coming from Wicca. That's where that comes from, because they're all about the divine feminine if they're into Wicca. But they have completely avoided out the masculine part of that. What do I mean? Because we're talking about the triple goddess. The triple goddess only represents 3 points. If we're talking about the 5 points, because the symbol of Wicca is the pentagram, right? The pentagram is 5 points. The triple goddess only represents 3 of the 5 points. Where are the other 2 points? Those other 2 points come from the horned god that everybody's afraid of, right? That satanic being like the Baphomet. We just say the Baphomet, right? The horned god. The 3 points of the triple goddess plus the 2 points of the horned god makes the 5-pointed pentagram or the 5-pointed star. But you're not going to hear about the horned god. You're not going to hear about that. That's like old school Wicca. You're not going to go to any modern Wicca classes and they're about to teach you about the horned god. No, because they're about the divine feminine. They're not acknowledging no Baphomet nowadays. But if we're talking about the original, again, you can research this on your own and you can verify everything that I'm saying. You can verify this. So the fact that you do not see it now, you're not going to find this on YouTube. You're not going to find Wiccas talking about the horn of God on YouTube. You're not going to find that, but that is their origins. That's how they started off. That may not be where they are now, because things became more political. It just became more political to negate that Baphomet aspect out of that, and now you just strictly want to deal with the Divine Mother and the triple goddess or the Sophia aspect and negate that. because again, because that brings in the darkness into the wiggle or the witchcraft, and that's why witches were feared. They wasn't really feared for the triple goddess Sophia, because that's the divine mother. That's like the Mother Mary energy, right? The darkness is that horn, got that Baphomet energy that nobody wants to acknowledge or deal with. Again, I'm just giving history, not my opinion, not how I feel about it. This everything I'm saying could be verified. The fact is, it's not too many people that's going to verify that. They're just going to go with what's the popular notion, or what's, again, they're not going, okay, well, what actually happened here? How did we get here? They just are concerned with what's going on. But again, let me talk about the third school. We talked about Gnosticism. We talked about Sufism. So Gnosticism with Sophia, and basically, it's more to it though. It's not just Sophia. It's more dimensions. So not basically, Gnosticism fills in gaps with the whole Adam and Eve story. So basically, most people are familiar with the Bible, and the Bible starts with Genesis. And Genesis talks about the creation of the world, and it's about creating Adam and Eve. Genesis, the Bible, the Garden of Eden. They don't know what happened prior to that. When you study Gnosticism, Gnosticism teaches you what happened before that. Okay, well, what happened before that? Gnosticism teaches, okay, because let me just go into the. It's hard to explain this without being very detailed, right? It's Gnostics are more liberal than Christians. So if you read books on Gnosticism, they're the outlaws, meaning they were the ones that were seen as lazy. They didn't want to work. They were into spirituality. They were into the tarot and divination and all that. Basically, the modern day, I don't know what they would call these people nowadays, but these people have been around forever. They just called them Gnostics before. They don't call them Gnostics now, but that's who they are. So anybody who has that same mentality that the Gnostics had thousands of years ago, it's the same thing. They just don't know, like, oh, this is just the modern day version of Gnosticism. So they may not be able to break it down to you, but that's essentially what it is. And that's the purpose I serve. I'm going to break down what everybody already sees. See, everything that I'm saying, everyone has already observed. People just don't know where it came from, right? We've all heard about the divine feminine. We heard about the divine masculine. We heard about the occult. We hear about all these things. We hear about astrology, but we don't, it's not ever put into context. Because you either got to be reading a lot of books or working with a lot of spirits to get this information. So most people don't have time to read most of the books, and they're too afraid to work with spirits. So especially the darker spirits. So this is why this information is not. It has to take a person like me to reveal this, because most people don't have the courage to work with the spirits or have the time or the dedication to actually research. So I find myself doing both, right? So if something is revealed by the spirit, and if it's real, I should be able to verify it. And that's what happens. So it comes through the spirit, but then I have to do my own research to verify it. So when I present it to you now I'm not just talking about what the spirit said, I'm also giving you the historical aspect behind what the spirit said. So now you have a holistic view. Right? So with Gnosticism, again, Gnosticism is more complex than just Sophia. So Gnosticism brings in the Great Mother, but then it also introduces the Moad and the Demiurge. So this is what I mean by most Gnostics they're basically like fuck life. So basically, the reason why America, I don't want to speak for nowhere else. I just speak for where I am. In America, while we have a death culture in America, while America is ran off of a death culture, meaning people honor death more than life. That's why, again, all the music is just death, 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 death. All the movies toxic, toxic, toxic. You're just seeing toxic relationships. You're seeing everything that's wrong with the world. You ain't seeing what's right and everything that bullshit, because it's distraction. Because if we actually deal with the origins, we can actually find solutions. But ain't nobody looking for solutions. They just want to deal with what you can actually see. So the same thing I see, everyone else sees. They just don't know why they see what they see. I'm just telling you why they see what they see and why you see what you see. Because once you understand the origin, you're like, oh, this is just what they are. They don't know what they are, but I know what they are because you didn't did your histories. And everybody falls into these patterns, right? So it don't matter how unique you are, you're still going to fall within the patterns of your zodiac sign. That's how it works. You can be the most unique person you think you are. You still have attributes of your zodiac sign. So even if you master all the zodiacs, your ascendant is your personality, not your sun sign. So whatever your ascendant is, you will always have those attributes, regardless of how much you evolve yourself. Let's continue. Like I said, when Gnosticism, it's not just Sophia. You have to say the Moad. You have to say the Demiurge. Then you have to say the Christ. You have to say the Moad, Sophia, the Demiurge. Then you study Christ. Then you study the commoners and everybody else. It's 5 points there. The Moad is basically the real God. Demiurge is the fake God. So basically, according to Gnostics, the Garden of Eden was a creation of the Demiurge, not the real God. So the whole speaking to a negative situation. But a Gnostic looks at that on reverse. What does a Gnostic say? The Gnostic is the Garden of Eden was a creation of the Demiurge. So because the Garden of Eden was a creation of the Demiurge, or the fake creator, it was the love of Sophia, which is a great mother, who came in the form of the serpent and revealed the truth onto how to reconnect with the Moad. So you could say Sophia came in the form of the serpent, or came in the form of Lilith, which was the first wife of Adam, which you don't learn in the Bible, but you do learn if you study if you study Judaism. It speaks about Lilith, but Lilith is not spoken about in the American version of the Bible, or the King James version. Basically, I don't even want to say American. The King James version does not mention Lilith, but Lilith is mentioned in Judaism as the first wife of Adam, who refused to allow him to have sex with her, and she's on the bottom of him. She would not allow Adam to have sex with her in a dominant position. Again, which goes back to sex magic. Because for all the sex magicians out there, you know the woman on top is the beginners of sex magic. So that's why when you look at Tantra, for example, for those who study Tantra, you see the woman will always be on top. Or most of the time you see a woman on top. So the fact that Adam tried to put her on the bottom, he was reversed, basically going from the matriarchy to the patriarchy. Like, okay, I'm going to be the dominant male because my power was given by God, and it's my divine right. This is how Adam, just is thinking like an egomaniac or a narcissist, right? I own you. You do what I say. All this shit. Like, Lilith wasn't having it. You didn't create shit. Because remember, Lilith did not come from Adam's rib, right? That is not the story of Lilith. Lilith was created, I believe, from the fires or something. Like, Lilith was not created from Adam. Lilith was created independent of Adam. If you study Judaism, right? So this is why people have the ideology that man and woman are equal, because they both, you can say, come from the clay. They were created separately but equally. That's a perspective. Then you have a different perspective. Okay, like man is a leader, man is a dominant one, man needs to take over. That's a patriarchy. What's up, Dank Wizard? That's the patriarchy mindset. Then the matriarchy, or the matriarchal mindset is women are on top, women dominant. All they're doing is using our ignorance to uphold the bullshit. What do I mean? If it's continuously about man versus woman, who wins? If they put us against ourselves, neither one of us wins, because we are perpetuating bullshit. Neither one of us wins, right? Those systems are outdated and useless. Well, they're in use right now because this is how most people think. So you're right. It's outdated, but it is still in use. We still have people walking around like man is a dominant, the most dominant thing on this planet. Then you have women walking around like women are the most dominant thing on this planet, right? And any woman who don't want to get with the program with the man, is not going to work. Or any man that don't want to get with women's program is going to. So like we're constantly at each other's heads when it's not necessary. There's no need for a patriarchy, just like there's no need for a matriarchy. There's no need for someone to be over someone else, because that does not ever end up well. It's not going to end up well if a bunch of men are dominating women. It's not going to end up well if it's a bunch of women dominating men. It's not going to end up well either way. Are we going to move into a sovereign type society? Not at all. Not at all. Because again, I don't want to speak for the whole world. We just speak for the Western mind. This is all creation anyway. This is all the creation anyway. And this is why I'm going through these stories, whether it's Gnosticism, whether it's Sufism, or whether it's Judaism. So I'm just giving Gnostic examples, Sufi examples, and the Kabbalistic examples, rather, because the Kabbalah is a subsection of Judaism. So Judaism, then right under Judaism, it's a Kabbalah. Just like you got Christian, then you got the Gnostic. Then you have the Islam, and then you have the Sufism, right? So when it comes to the mainstream will always move in that direction of that old and outdated and useless stuff that you're talking about. The mainstream is going to go in that direction because that's what's keeping them on point. What do I mean? Most people believe in spookism. Most people believe in an invisible God that's looking at you personally and judging you about what you're doing and what you're not doing. So most people think like this. Most people believe in some invisible guy in the sky, pulling the strings. So as long as people still think like that, they don't see themselves as divine. They don't say, okay, I need to wake up myself to my own divinity, not to suppress anybody, but to accept myself. That's the difference. See, most people are not. This is why it doesn't work for most people. What do I mean? This is why you see most spiritual people. You would think that they will show forth more spirituality or more spiritual attributes, but they're just as ratchet. They're just as toxic or dangerous as somebody who don't know nothing. And we have seen it. We have seen people who are supposed to be spiritual know better than someone who's not, because they use the information and try to dominate with it, try to suppress with the information. If you use the information to suppress, then you're no better than a person who did the same thing to us. And again, not person, just the entity, the demiurge. The demiurge creates, this is where this whole prison planet ideology comes from. So if you have ever heard about the prison planet, this is Gnosticism. Even the flat earth, Gnosticism. We are in a prison planet and we need to free our souls. That's Gnosticism. We have been imprisoned by a demiurge or a fake creator. That's Gnosticism. That's also, again, so all these liberals, they fit into, okay, sorry about that. All these liberals fit into this category because this is what they own. This is the time they own. They just don't know this. Because again, all this information is scattered. You have so many people talking about this stuff and they may not be nothing. They may not be a Gnostic. They may not be a Sufi. They may not be a Kabbalist. They may not be an alchemist. They're just somebody who knows something. Right? Which goes back to the initial question of why do you need all three? If you claim to be an occultist, you need all three. So and this will be the last point. Because battery's getting low. We see that the sun is going down. So let me make this last point. This is why you need all three schools. And again, I'll be sure to, try to do this daily. Try to at least give information on a daily. Again, we don't have to go too deep and do full presentations. Again, if just to have conversations like this. So if y'all want that, just let me know. So if y'all want me to have these daily, I'm not gonna do it if nobody want it, because again, I'm just wasting my time if I'm just doing it because I feel I need to do it. So if you guys don't want me to do it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm only gonna do it if that's what you guys want as the supporters. If you don't want it, then I'm not gonna do it. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But if you guys want it, then just let me know if that's what you want. Because otherwise, again, I'm not going to dedicate my time and no one's asking for it because it has to be some type of demand there, right? If I'm going to dedicate my time and energy behind it instead of what I think people want to hear, right? It's not about what I think you want to hear. It's about what actually needs to be said. And I felt this needed to be said versus it's something I think is useful information. I feel this will help everybody to connect the dots because I know everybody is seeing all this stuff that I see and they feel the same way I feel. You see the craziness that's going on in the spiritual community. We ain't even got to talk about the people that don't know nothing. We're talking about the motherfuckers who's supposed to know something, who's supposed to be the teachers, who's supposed to be the ones on the front line, who's supposed to be the leaders. We see they don't even have their shit together. So when we have the people who's supposed to be leading people in a place and they don't even know where they're going, then we can see how that creates a lot of confusion. And it just turns people off from the science altogether because of the people that represent it. Okay? So, yeah, they knew better because they always know better. Because there's no way you're not going to know better. But again, if you scam, you scam. If you play, you play. If you already have it in your mind to get over, then that's what you're going to do. This just becomes an avenue to do it. If you already have it set in your mind to scam and get over on people, then this is just an avenue to do it. So anybody who has that mentality, they're going to bring that mentality into anything that they do. So it's about, this is what I mean, it's about the mentality. And this is the point I want to make. If you are not actively doing something to change your mentality, it's not going to change on its own. What I mean is age don't do it. This ain't something you grow out of. This ain't something you grow out of when you hit 40, 50. Oh, all of a sudden you know the truth. All of a sudden you don't want to be religious. This is not an age thing. This is all about the heart. This is all about the heart. This is heart consciousness. Your heart is a separate intelligence than your brain. That's why when you feel things deeply, you feel it in your heart. You don't feel it up here. You feel it in your heart because that's a different consciousness. That's a more powerful consciousness connected to who you really are. So, for example, the three schools, Gnosticism, Sufism, Judaism. Why do you need all three? You need all three. So let me give you a reason why you need all three schools. You need to study the Kabbalah. That's Judaism. You study Judaism so you get a feel of Kabbalah, right? Everyone is always arguing over nothing. I'm explaining to you why that is. This to help you understand why you see what you see and why you have never seen me engage in that behavior. You have never seen me beef with nobody on YouTube. You have never seen me go at nobody on YouTube. I may have made a little few comments about people, but it was never no beef. It was never something I did continuously. It was never something that caused anything. I've never put nobody's name in my title. So the fact that we're seeing, this is what I mean, the fact that we see that behavior, that has nothing to do with spirituality. That's the point I'm making. That has nothing to do with spirituality. That's whatever they was into before they began studying. And they just brought that shit over into their spirituality. And that began to be dominant because that's who they are. They're not trying to change who they are just because they're trying to get gain. That don't mean they're trying to change who they are, especially when they feel they don't need to change who they are. That's the egomaniac. There's a lot of people with knowledge who are egomaniacs. You're like, yo, shouldn't this knowledge evolve you? Yes, it should. But this knowledge is not going to evolve you if you are an egomaniac. It's not going to make you better in your heart if you're trying to get over on people. If it's just all about, what you can get and what you can extract. It's not going to work. So this is why you see what you see. You see what you see because it's the type of people, they just pick up a book and they feel like they can do something with it. That's not a sincere dedication to, okay, I'm going to do this irregardless of whether I'm supported or not. Right? That's why when they start getting in trouble with YouTube, they fall back or they stop creating content. I've never been in trouble with YouTube other than being shadow banned. Yeah, they restrict my views. So what? I don't have any community strikes because I'm not speaking about other people. Because it's easy to get hit with community strikes when you speak about other people. You got other people name in your mouth. You got other people name in your video titles. They can flag you, and when you get flagged, you get a community strike. They're gonna hit you for hate speech. They're gonna hit you for misinformation. All right? They're gonna do all that. It's even to the point where whatever you're talking about, they may put a little section underneath your video. We all seen this. You've seen people, they may be talking about COVID or something, and you got a little information box right under the video. They put little information boxes right under the video just to fact check, to give more context to what's being said. They're even, you don't see that. You don't see them doing that with my videos. What's up? Love Life 5032. You don't see that with my videos, right? Because I'm not into that shit. I could be. I would have, trust me, if I was beefing and going at people, I would have a lot more views because that's what people want. Because it would be more, I would be a entertainer. That's what it is. And this would be the last point. Most of the people that are watched are entertainers. They're entertainers, right? They may be doing this little knowledge shit, but then, you know, they doing music on the side. They doing all this other shit on the side. This is just one of their hustles, and they have many. That's how most people treat the spiritual. It's just another hustle of the many hustles they have. That's just how they treat it. And that's why we see the results we see in the so-called conscious community or the spiritual community. We see the results we see because of the type of people who just look at this as another hustle. It's just another scam. They're not actually concerned with the actual evolution of people. Because if they were actually concerned with this, they would be doing more things that don't involve the internet. Or as they say, clout chasing. Why is it so much clout chasing? I'll tell you why. And again, I'm just gonna speak to my battery died. So when a video go off, it's because my battery died. I just want to give you guys so much information. This is, again, it's so much information because it's a lot going on. And it's gonna always be a lot going on, but we have to have discernment. I'm just teaching how to have discernment, all right? So this is the difference. So when you study all three schools, this is how you gather discernment. This is why I'm mentioning the three schools. So yes, even if you don't claim, no label, you're just a spiritual person. You just want to know the truth. You're just a truth seeker. You don't have to claim no titles. No titles need to be claimed. You just need to know the science and the mathematics behind what you're doing, and you will be okay. You'll be okay. So the first thing you need to identify, what school do you fall under? Meaning, what is your foundation? You need to establish your foundation. Am I a Gnostic? Am I a Sufi? Or do I more so identify with the Jewish faith? Which faith do you mostly identify as? And once you figure out which one you identify as, that becomes your foundation to understand the other schools that you don't identify with. So let me give you my personal example. Islam has been a part of my life since I was born, different types of Islam. So we're talking about the Nation of Islam, we're talking about the 5%ers, we're talking about the Sunni Muslims. I have had many different forms of Islam in my life, my whole life, just based off of where I'm from. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan is where the NOI was started. The Nation of Islam was founded in Detroit, Michigan in 1930. So me being from there, it's just a history by itself. That energy is there. So I had an uncle that was in the Nation of Islam. I would see the bow tie and the suits, right? I didn't know anything about it. Then the Message to the Black Man, written by Elijah Muhammad, I read that book as a teenager. So that was more the Nation of Islam. But then when I came to California, I started connected with the 5%ers. And that's when I Knowledge 120, which are, again, the words of Elijah Muhammad, the conversation between Farad Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad. So for me, Islam was my foundation. And after I laid that foundation, hence after I got my Sufism, because Sufism is basically Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad's Islam is not Sunni Islam. The 5%er Islam is not the Islam of the Muslims, right? So basically, it's Sufism. So once I got the Sufism on deck, then I started studying the Gnosticism. Then when I had a feel of Gnosticism, then I started studying the Kabbalah. Right. Speaking of Detroit, what is the story behind that ring in Harts Plaza? I mean, we can go into so much history on these cities. That would take a whole video. Like if we just wanted to decode the cities, but that's why I encourage people to work with the spirit of your city. If you want to know those answers, you got to work with the spirit that rules over your city. And I'm not going to be able to tell everybody what spirit rules over their city because I'm not everywhere at all times. But you can discover, like for example, I'm in Las Vegas right now. Las Vegas is also known as Sin City. Sin City is a Sumerian deity, right? So this is this when they say this is the city of sin, they're talking about a deity. They're not talking about because people fornicate or because people drink alcohol or this is Sin City because people sin. No, sin is a moon deity. Has nothing to do with your acts, right? But this is an easier example. Every city isn't that direct. Some cities you need to do a little bit more research as to what spirit dominates. I'm just giving you an example. So basically, for me, if I wanted to understand the history of Las Vegas, I will connect with sin on top of doing my own research. Because, wisdom, the discerning eye, you may be reading a book and the spirit reveals something to you as you're reading a book that's not in that book that helps you to understand the book that you're reading. That's how the spirit works. That's how it works for me, at least. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. My mother said Detroit is like a black hole. It takes a type of energy to be there. I guess or here. You're here. Well, it's the whole Midwest. If we really want to talk about that energy, the energy of death, it's the energy of death. It's the whole Midwest. Again, if we're talking about Detroit, if we're talking about Chicago, if we're talking about Kansas, the whole Midwest has that energy. It's the whole Midwest. So Detroit is like it's concentrated there, just like in Chicago, it's concentrated there. Like those two, like the most dangerous cities, is the Midwest. Why is the Midwest like the most dangerous part of the country, basically? Again, Chicago was started by a Haitian man. A Haitian black man is the founder of the city of Chicago. Most people don't know that. It was a black man that started Chicago. So when you say, oh, why is shit crazy? Is the voodoo. Voodoo is why Chicago was crazy because it was started by a Haitian man. I'm not saying that he did it. I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm talking about the dark side of that. Meaning, if we're talking about voodoo, voodoo helped the Haitians liberate themselves. They were liberated because they practiced voodoo, which is the art of war. So when it was brought here to America, it's still the art of war. We just turned on each other. That's all it is. We're at war with each other because the spirituality underneath that war is black magic. It was for us to liberate ourselves, but we continue to practice that, and then we begin to war with each other because that is the nature of the energy itself. So when we ask ourselves why it's so crazy, it's because of the spirituality underneath. That's what it is. It's the spirituality underneath. We talk about voodoo. And in voodoo, it speaks about the barons, Baron Samedi, for example, right? It speaks about the barons who are spirits of the dead. So even in Chicago, when somebody dies, like a rapper dies, and what do they say? They smoking on a rapper, right? They smoking on dead niggas, right? That what? No, okay. Well, who communicates with the dead? Oh, that's right, necromancers. Oh, that's right, that's sorcery. Oh, that's right, that's voodoo. That's the science of voodoo. So on the surface, it's one thing, but when you practice and study what's really going on, you see a whole different picture. Just giving quick examples. Just quick examples. So just let me again see. It's getting darker. It's getting darker. Don't worry about the visuals. It's just about what's being said. I got like 8%. Like I said, I'm just gonna speak till the phone die, and again, whatever comes out of it is what comes out of it. But this is what I'm answering the question. This is why you need to study all three schools. So you need to be Kabbalistically sound. So you need to have that tree life on lock. You need to have the Kabbalah on lock, right? Do you feel rituals will still be of value during 5D times? Not traditional rituals, no. Traditional rituals, no. Meaning if you're trying to still do what they was doing in ancient times, no. I never recommend that. That's why when I say working with spirits, I'm talking about this is how we need to act. This is how we need to move in the 21st century. You have to actually move the currency in your own body to the third eye area. This is what Kundalini is. So when you see the Egyptian deities or the pharaohs, when you see the serpent coming out their third eye, that's the Kundalini has risen up the spine through the back and has came up the front. So basically it's going up the spine, then it basically goes down the front of your body. So the Kundalini goes up the spine, then it goes down the front. So basically once it reaches that third eye, is made that circle around the crown and hit that third eye. So that serpent comes out. All right. Now, again, that just means your Kundalini is activated, so you have spiritual discernment. That's what that means. It means I have spiritual discernment. I can see into the other side. I have second sight. Most people don't have second sight. Do you ever do one-on-one calls? Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, anybody who wants access to me, you have access to me. All you have to do is email me, asha@asharenew.com. That's my email. Or go to my website, asharenew.com. All my services are right on the website. You can email me, asharenew, asha@asharenew.com. Or you can just text me. Text my phone number, 702-530-1197. Right? So that's my business number. So you have direct access. Anybody who needs something from me, I am always available. So don't wait for me to make a video. Because again, you see I'm still on my shit. I don't slip up. I'm still putting this shit down on a daily basis. It just is what it is. That's why when I do come back, you see I'm gonna come back with some new information. I'm gonna smash heads. But again, anybody want to get in contact with me, you can email me, you can visit my website, or you can text me personally. So that's my biz, 702-530-1197. Asha@asharenew.com. It's my email, or you can just anytime. Anywhere, I don't care where you are on the planet. I don't care if it's 4 a.m., 4 p.m., you have access to me. That's what I do. That's what I give back on. The group community. You prefer the group consciousness, no problem. That's why I do the YouTube. And for the people who prefer the more private, that's why I do a website. I can't talk to no one who has not put in the work to elevate them shit. You're not supposed to be entertained with things that don't matter. That people are so caught up in the moment, they're not thinking about tomorrow or next week, next month, next year, 10 years, 5 years. You are basically a deity at this point. It's all based on, that's why I chose the name I chose. We all are deities. We all are supreme. We are all of that. That's why I took on the name I took on, Amun Asharenew. I took on that name because that name was revealed to me through my spiritual work. Now, I can't speak for no one else. Some people just choose names, and it has no spiritual connection. Some people do. It ain't for me to judge anyone else. All I know is I chose the Egyptian energy is because that wasn't my life. I'm still trying to be a Sunni Muslim. I'm in California, still making my prayers 5 times a day, doing everything, fast for Ramadan. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't necessarily feel a connection with the divine. I didn't feel a connection. I started feeling a connection when the spirit came to me directly. I played with Yu-Gi-Oh cards as a kid. I'm sure millions of people play with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So I can't say that that's the reason. Everybody was playing with Yu-Gi-Oh when it was popping, sure. But when the spirit came to me directly and revealed this name to me, I've told this story many times on my channel before, so this isn't new. But that's how I know this was real. Like a spirit came to me and revealed this name. I Googled the name and it was an actual deity in the original tongue. So the deity revealed to me its name in the original tongue that I never heard before. And I'm like, this is this is real. So from that moment on, I was convinced. So this one, but that again, I wasn't necessarily working with no Egyptian energy at the time that an Egyptian spirit came to me. So that's why I resonate with the Egyptian energy. It was there's no other reason than those were the spirits that revealed themselves to me first. That is the only reason. It wasn't me trying to be cool, or I'm trying to get points, or this is just a cool thing to do. It was just the Egyptian spirits is laid my foundation to what I am now. That's what the Egyptian spirits did for me. I was not asking for it. I had no idea how to work with spirits at this time. I didn't even understand what was fully going on with me at the time that it happened to me. I didn't fully understand until way later on. I didn't fully understand until way later on. Because again, I was still in a household with religious people. So at the time of this happening, I'm still in a household full of Muslims making salat 5 times a day. And here I am coming in with tarot decks because the spirits are coming to me, showing me a different way. So at that point, I had to leave, and that's my story. So, and again, that's how the whole street activity took place, and that's how the whole street activity started. I started to deal in the streets and run in the streets and navigate in the streets because I had to leave the home I was in because of what was going on with me eternally. It was making religious Muslims, and no knock to them, because I would expect anybody to feel nervous. Again, you bringing tarot decks around, you're speaking about things that they don't understand. You having occult conversations. I fully understand how this would be very shocking to somebody who's not into this. So no, not taking anything away from these people. They just again they're like, yo, if you went to that, you can't be here. I respected it and I left. And then it wasn't no argument. It wasn't no chaos. I'm like, all right, if I got to go, I got to go. Why? Because at that point, I was convinced that it was some real shit beyond what I was exposed to, and I needed to develop that attribute that was revealed to me. And that's essentially what I did. But that required me to do so in the streets on my own. I had to go to the streets and I had to face my own spirituality. I'm like, I couldn't do it in somebody else's household. That's it's 2012, 2013, right? Years ago. So it's cool now. I don't think anybody now will have to face that unless the Aquarian information is me. So everything that I'm doing was not cool to do when I was doing it. In my opinion, when I was into this shit, it was not cool to do. When I was first on YouTube, I'm sure it was before most of the people it took time people to come to this understanding. They're still taking their sweet ass time with this. Because here I am all the way over here. I'm talking about a type of work. But again, it's not to take away any power from anyone else. That's why I'm here to help people to understand what's going on. Not to put anybody down, not to say anybody's right. We seem spiritual egomaniacs. Seen that. That ain't something I have to convince you of. You've seen it play out. If you are in, I'm just showing you and telling you why. Why does it play out like that? What is the energy behind that? And again, you have to study the 3 schools of occult. And again, I'll speak more about these things in the coming days and the coming weeks. But I just want to lay the foundation. So moving forward, we know at least where it